Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Angie, and in this video I've got some easy Christmas in July crafts to make. For this first project I'm using a small lantern. I started by removing the handle. I'll use that for a different project. I then attached a styrofoam ball over the top of the lantern. I just pressed it on and then added a little bit of glue at the bottom. Next, I rolled out a thin layer of air-dry clay and covered the styrofoam ball. If you've ever watched any of my Christmas videos, you know I can't resist making a snowman. I'm using a little bit of water to help smooth out the clay. Next, I rolled out 2 small balls of clay and attached it to the face. This will be the cheeks. I then rolled out a small carrot shape for the nose. To make the mouth, I used a clay tool to sculpt a smile. I had to make 2 because when I told my daughter what I was going to make, she said she wanted one as well. After the clay was dry, I gave it a coat of paint. While the paint was drying, I made the hat since I didn't have one. I'm just using a scrap of muslin fabric because that's what I have on hand. I drew a circle for the hat brim onto a double thickness of fabric and then drew a smaller circle in the middle. I then sewed around the entire outer circle. Next, I cut around the stitch line and then clipped the curves. I then cut out the small circle in the middle and turned the brim right side out. I then used a double thickness rectangle of fabric and stitched the ends of the fabric together. I also cut a small circle of fabric for the top of the hat and then stitched the small circle to the top, turned it right side out, and then stitched it to the brim. If you used black fabric, you can use a fabric stiffener for your hat. Since I didn't have any black fabric to use, I just painted the fabric and the paint will act as the stiffener. Next, I drew the eyes on and then painted the cheeks and nose. To paint the mouth, I first outlined it with a paint pen and then used a small brush to fill it in. I did this because the tip of my paint pen was too thick to fit inside the mouth. Next, I used the paint pen to draw on the eyes and eyebrows. When the paint was dry, I gave the hat and snowman a coat of antiquing wax. I then glued the hat on. To decorate the inside of the lantern, I added some snow text to the inside back and then glued in some trees. I then added more snow text to cover the glue and then added more miniatures followed by more of the snow text. To finish it, I added a sprig of greenery to the hat and a piece of scrap fabric for the scarf. For the second project, I'm using some scrap wood. I started by cutting a 2.5-inch hole in each piece and then sanding all the rough edges. Next, I went ahead and stained the entire thing. I then cut out 4 plastic circles from a Christmas ornament package and set them aside. Next, I covered the front and back of the wood using scrapbook paper. I then glued one of the plastic circles over the back side of the wood. I chose to do it this way, but you could certainly wait and glue both plastic circles on after you added the miniatures. Next, I glued some miniatures to the cutout areas and used some modeling paste for snow. I'm just using the modeling paste because it's starting to dry out and I want to use it up. I also added a little glitter to the wet paste. Next, I stamped some Christmas greetings onto cardstock and then cut them apart and added a little glitter around the edges, then set them aside to dry. I then added some ink around the edges of the paper. For this one, I cut a snowflake from some felt trim and glued it to the inside back. You know I like to decorate the backs of my ornaments, so for these I use some scrapbooking stickers. I then glued some trim over the edges of the plastic circle. I also added a little bit of glitter glue. To decorate the front of this one, I used some metal corners that I highlighted with Rub and Buff. I then glued on all the greetings. Next, I added a little more glitter to the inside and then glued the second piece of plastic over the hole. I then added the trim to cover the edge along with a little glitter glue. I didn't like the red, so I carefully removed it and replaced it with the gold. I also needed to cover the red on this sticker, so I used silver Rub and Buff to do that. I'm using the handles off of the lanterns from the previous project, so I gave one of them a coat of the silver Rub and Buff. To attach them, I just added a couple of small eye hooks. To finish it, I added a small bow. For the final project, I'm making a quick assemblage. I started by adding some styrofoam to the Santa boot and covering it with moss. I then just added greenery picks and some bits and pieces from my stash. This is just an add as much or as little as you like kind of project. It's great for using up those single bits you may have left over from other projects. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this Christmas sneak peek, and I'll see you in the next video.